think this is Dr. Morgan. Hello.
Nice to meet you.
All right. So it's good to close out. Well, at least for today, you guys are my closing out. So it's a good way to close out hearing from our parents. So yeah.
With your other bosses.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, yeah, you're absolutely right. Other bosses and our other teachers,
Yes.
the first
Yeah.
teachers. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so we're going to get started here. Just waiting for Q there, but if we're ready. So good evening, everyone, and thanks for being here for our caregiver parent panel interview for the next potential superintendent and CEO for the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. We have Dr. Warren Morgan here. We would like to thank you for being here. Congratulations on making it this far. We're excited to have you here. On behalf of the parents and caregivers, we want to express our gratitude for your interest in this position and your commitment to education. The role of superintendent is critical to the success of our district, and we are looking for a leader who can guide us towards achieving our mission of providing an excellent education for all our scholars and students. We also understand that this position requires a combination of experience, expertise, and deep commitment that you have as being one of our finalists. And we're confident and ready to ask questions here. So during this interview, we're going to ask a series of 6 questions, and then you will have 5 minutes to answer each question, leaving time at the end for you to ask us questions. We're now going to get into our introductions. I am India Hobbs. I am Executive Director of Home Care Companions and Associates. I'm also Director on the Better Business Bureau. I have a sophomore who attends the Cleveland School of the Arts, and I have been a CMSD parent for the past 8 years.
All right, thank you.
I'm Casey Massengale. I am a CMSD parent of a graduating senior from MC Squared STEM High School and Gates Scholar.
All right, there we go.
So, I am myself a product of CMSD schools and look forward to see what you can do for us.
Which high school did you graduate from?
John Marshall.
Marshall. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Tan. I'm a parent. I have 3 children at Campus International and 1 elsewhere. And my oldest started 8 years ago.
All right. Nice.
I'm Janira Rivera. I am a parent and also an employee with the Cleveland Metropolitan School District for 13 years, paraprofessional over at Bureau of the Language Academy. I have 6 children currently in the CMSD district from Lincoln West all the way down to Bureau of the Language Academy.
That's amazing. And thank you for your service as a staff member.
Hi, I'm Megan Workman. I'm a graduate of John Marshall High School. I also have a child in special education preschool at Benjamin Franklin. And I work for Catholic Charities Migration and Refugee Services, so I have a connection to the immigrant community as well.
Oh, thank you. And when I was, Catholic Charities was a good partner of ours in our Promise Zone neighborhood schools when I was here. So
Yeah.
thank you for that. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Lena Rung. I'm parent of a 3rd grade scholar at Louisa May Elcott, which is the last true elementary school that we have in CMSD, so we're a K to 5. I am also a FACE coordinator for Network 3, so working with family engagement.
All right. Awesome.
I am Ida Lopez. I am a CMSD employee. I am the LPN at Scranton Elementary School. I have a 7th grader at Scranton, and I am a graduate of John Hay High School.
Oh, awesome. And my mom's also a school nurse, so yeah, thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Celia Schoenfeld. I am a native Clevelander, also a CMSD student. I have 3 children in this district, and I'm a parent ambassador at Max Hayes High School.
All right, thank you.
I'm Samuel Mazey. I have 2 students. One's at John Hay, a freshman, and one's at Stonebrook White, and he's a 6th grader.
Oh, I'm so excited. So Stonebrook was one of the schools that I used to supervise, but back then it was not a Montessori. And I know Principal Hayes had been advocating for years. So when I
She's
saw
doing
that,
a very good job.
that happened.
We switched over there, so it was very nice to see how she runs that school.
That is amazing. I'm excited.
Hi, my name is Ty Mitchell. I am a graduate of John F. Kennedy High School. My son also goes to CIS. He's a graduating 8th grader, so we're getting ready for high school. I have a company called Unbreakable Entertainment, and we have a division that we deal with education called Edutainment.
Okay.
All right, again, welcome Dr. Morgan here. We will be asking again a range of 6 questions that will cover various aspects of the role of superintendent and CEO, including leadership, student achievement, equity, resource management. We encourage you to share your perspective and experiences openly with us. Again, thank you for allowing us the opportunity to ask these questions. We look forward from hearing from you. We're going to have Ada as our timekeeper here. And without further ado, Megan is going to ask our first question.
How have you used data in the past to inform decision-making and to support and motivate all students, including students with varying abilities, different economic backgrounds, and varying levels of support?
I jokingly say that data is one of my love languages, and I know it's not a real love language, but I love data. I use it all the time. As a matter of fact, I'll show you guys some artifacts before I leave where you guys can see some of the ways I've used it in the past. But I believe we must always be looking at data because that is the way that we make decisions, but it also allows us to know where we have progress. And so one of the strategies I used it here in Cleveland when I was here, so all of my principals, they'll remember performance management sessions, and I've carried that into Indianapolis public schools. And what that allows us to do is every year we set forward with our goals and priorities that we have as a district. But if we're not monitoring it along the way, we won't know if we're actually reaching the goals that we've set forth. And so we do performance management 4 times throughout the year. It's a time for all of my direct reports to share what is actually happening and if the plan that we intended to be in place is actually working. In that session, I ask questions about not only the absolute performance in terms of mastery, I ask questions about how we're growing. I ask questions about achievement gaps. Between our different demographic groups of students. And from there, we've been able to move progress. Last year, Indianapolis Public Schools had a great year academically. We were #1 in the state in terms of our ELA and math growth, and the only district in the state to surpass where we were in ELA pre-pandemic. The other thing, by looking at data and performance management sessions, I have the benefit of also supervising our athletics and our enrichment program. And by looking at the data of our student athletes, as well as our students that are involved in after-school programs, we notice that our students in after-school programs are connected to some type of program within the school, perform better on grades. They also perform better in terms of attendance. They show up to school because there's a reason to come to school, not only just the high academics, but there's a program that they're connected to. And so looking at that data helped us to be able to do that. We are also a district that has 68 different languages that are spoken within Indianapolis Public Schools. Very fortunate for the enrichment programs team that sits under my leadership that is working on a language justice policy to ensure that we are having equitable access for our English language learners. We have several students and families that are new to our country, and having a place for students to gain the language proficiency, but then also supporting families as they acclimate to the new country has been very important for our district. And so these are all things I would bring back. As I mentioned, I did performance management here when I was a network leader, and I will want to bring those back, but then looking at it on all facets, not only just on our academic side, but our facilities. Do we have the right programs in all of our schools? Are there programs that we need to replicate throughout the city? And then also looking at our enrollment trends as well.
Thank you for that answer. Our second question is about the demonstrated ability to implement and manage equitable practices. How have you attracted, trained, and retained a diverse and excellent workforce of teachers, staff, administrators? And how have you balanced accountability and support to ensure equitable practices across a system?
So I'll start with just making sure the staff that we have in terms of retention is really important. That our staff feel valued, heard, and seen. When I was here in Cleveland, one of the favorite things that I did was having an affinity group for Black male educators. It is a very small group of Black educators, not only nationwide, but here in CMSD it's really small, less than 2%, or right about it at 2% mark. And so it was really important for the retention of making sure that we kept the Black male educators that we have within our system, that there was a group, a support network where we could listen to each other, hear our stories, whether we were at central office or whether we were a support staff member at a school. It was important to hear those experiences and stories, and then also think about our recruitment strategy and our plan. I think all groups of affinity need groups like that for our staff members to be seen, heard, and valued, and so those are really important. I also believe in Indianapolis, our HR team has been able to lead the effort on our Grow Your Own program, and from the academic lens, we're growing our own from the student perspective, so making sure that there are actual high school pathway programs for future educators. Many of our students are diverse in terms of their demographics, and so if we're making the field of education attractive from a standpoint of not only teaching students about education in their high school career, but getting them into college, and then having them have a commitment to come back to work in CMSD, I think that would be very powerful, and that's what we've done in Indianapolis. And also through our Grow Your Own training and certifying our paraprofessionals. There are many paraprofessionals that work in our system. They have great relationships with our kids. And if they're interested in being a licensed teacher, having a pathway for that. And so that's really important. There was a last aspect of your question that I wanted to hit. You talked about the retention.
Yeah.
But what was the last part?
How have you balanced accountability and support to ensure equitable practices across a system?
I knew it was an important one that I didn't
It's
want
a
to leave
lot.
out. So yeah. So the reason why I didn't want to leave that out is because anything anyone knows about me, I mentioned I'm big on data, but I have a very high bar for what we do for our kids. It was great listening to our kids in the last panel, and not only did they give me energy in terms of the things that they were bringing, our kids come to school with so much on their minds now, and they're dealing with so much, and I heard that even from them when thinking about the safety and security in our building. And so I am no nonsense when it comes to making sure we have high quality programs, making sure our buildings are safe, and that we're holding ourselves accountable, myself accountable as well to delivering on that. At the same time, I also believe that this is people work. And so even though I have a very high bar for what we're doing in our schools and how we're pushing to make our schools better, our staff and our students need to be seen, valued, and heard. Mm-hmm. And so my team, they know we push, but at the same time, they also know I check in with them as people. We celebrate birthdays, we celebrate milestones. They're reaching out to me even though they're sad about the potential about me, leaving. I've gotten so many congratulations or like, go, you can do this. And that's because the culture we built. And so I think you have to have a very high bar in terms of accountability, but you also have to see people as people and treat them as valued professionals.
Okay. Thank you for that, Casey.
Can you share a time when you have brought together community stakeholders with diverse interests to support a particular initiative to benefit students? And how did you inform and engage those community stakeholders?
So one of the biggest initiatives that I've been a part of in Indianapolis has been our Rebuilding Stronger plan. This has been a plan to make sure that every student within Indianapolis Public Schools has access to a high quality curriculum, no matter where they live, their socioeconomic status, or their race. And so without boring you with too many of the details, the biggest thing that we've done with that plan is making sure that we have high quality programs in every building. We also make sure that all students within 8th grade will have access to Algebra 1, making sure that all students have access to foreign language and also music. And so that's been very important. And in order to do this, we've needed to scale, bring our schools to scale. We've created a middle school model, so we're not we're moving away from K-8, but having elementary, middle schools, and high schools. Now, all of that has been great. It sounds great, and people are like, yeah, I can get behind that because you're creating equity. But when you talk about what that means and how it actually gets in action, there is sometimes tension that happens there. And so several community meetings over the course of the past 2 years to meet with not only parents, students, our business leaders to talk about the model and the plan. And not only were we just talking about the model and the plan with them, they were giving us a lot of feedback. Particularly on the academic lens. I would go out to schools, and school communities will tell us, like, this is how we feel like it needs to get done, or we stand behind your policy on equity in this regard, but have you thought about this? And so doing those community meetings when we're listening to community stakeholders, it helped me lead my team in terms of the academic vision that we're bringing together with Rebuilding Stronger. And we have a very strong professional learning team that is helping not only us craft the vision for the academic model for Rebuilding Stronger, but then also making sure our teachers are trained to implement it. And so that is one where we've had to bring together many different stakeholders with some different points of views and perspective, grounded on a mission of equity and excellence, but then also delivering a plan that we're going to move forward.
Great. Sam?
Okay, this is the long one. In your experience, how have you worked to ensure equitable distribution of resources across schools? How have you balanced maintaining continued success at schools that are showing strong student academic performance outcomes, while ensuring that schools with lower performance outcomes and lack of community support are receiving the targeted assistance they need to improve student outcomes?
So something that's really important to me is making sure that my team has a plan. In Indianapolis Public Schools, we have a strategic plan that has 4 priorities. Most specifically is making sure that we have a high quality, culturally relevant curriculum. Racial equity is also part of that plan. Making sure that we communicate effectively with our stakeholders and that we're funding and operating effectively. So those are the 4 components of the plan. My team specifically, under that first tenet of making sure that there is equitable access to a high quality curriculum, every team member has initiatives that are under priority 1 with strategic goals. And so not only do we revisit that plan through performance management that I talked about earlier, but we revisit it during our check-ins just to make sure that the plan that we intend is actually happening in progress. You talked about resources. One of the things we're finding, when I first became a school leader and even in the early days here in CMSD, we moved under a student-based budgeting model. And that is a model that was intended to make sure that if you had certain numbers of enrollment, you got the dollars. And that gave our school leaders autonomy to do whatever they needed to do with the resources. The challenge with that, and I know this as someone who led a high school on the west side of Chicago that had challenges, and when you have challenges in your school, you sometimes lose enrollment, or it's not a school that people want to go to. And so what you have when you have a student-based budgeting model, you create inequities within your system. Because that means the schools that are over-enrolled, everyone wants to go to, they get all the resources. And that's why they're able to offer violin and dance and all those other things. And if you're over here on this side, and you don't have the enrollment, you struggle. And so our finance team has worked with our academics team to think about what is an equitable strategic supplement we give to our schools, but we're also redoing our student-based allocation system for that reason. Making sure that there's a baseline of all programs that we offer. And I think I mentioned before, Algebra 1 for every 8th grader, music, foreign language. These are not choices that our school leaders should have to make. It's a resource that should be protected and something that we at the central office invest in. And so that has been work that I've done in Indianapolis, and also just from my experience in other systems, that I will want to see how it works out here. And just in the meetings I've had today, I've heard that that's a tension point. I've heard from our school leaders saying, SVB, the way it was intended, is not working because of those inequities. And so that would be something I would want to look at.
Okay, thank you. Celia? Or, sorry, Mr.
No,
Mitchell.
yes.
Eyes went down.
No problem. Dr. Warren, I'm going to stay on task, but this is personal to me, and I'm pretty sure to everyone else. Tell us about some of the key safety and security issues in schools that you've experienced in your leadership, and what strategies have you used to successfully address these issues? That's the first part. And then the second part is, have you ever had the opportunity to initiate and implement new safety procedures? And what strategies do you envision being successful here in Cleveland?
Yeah, this came up a lot with the students, and it's just unthinkable what is happening across the country right now.
Absolutely.
Which is, as I told the kids, I take it very serious to make sure that we protect our babies when they're under our care. And so that is protecting them while they're in the building, but then also getting to and from school. That's really important. I'll first talk about some things that I would want to learn as if I were the CEO, that I would want to learn so that we would address, and then I will talk about some things that I've done in the past. First, and it's part of my entry plan, and I'll share with you guys that so you guys could take a look at it. But I would want to do an audit, a safety audit of our buildings to see what are some of the policies and procedures. Do we have enough resource officers in our building? Do our officers have relationships with kids? Because it starts with relationships. We want to be as proactive as possible. And the proactive measures are making sure students feel comfortable, that they feel safe, and that there's adults that they have relationships in the school with. And so that would be very important, that I would look at that and do those walks with our police department and also our resource officers to just see what is possible. When I was a principal on the west side of Chicago, there was challenges students were facing even just getting to school. They had to walk through a gang zone, and I remember drugs visibly being sold on the corner. I had a student advisory council as a principal where you heard students saying it was not safe. I would hear from our parents, our grandparents, saying this is not safe. We see them doing this on the corner all the time. And so I took that student advisory council to a forum that the mayor was hosting at the time, and the police superintendent was there. And I remember one of our students standing up and saying, to the mayor and to the police superintendent, what are you going to do about this corner? And they listened to it intently. And through that, it was a big part of a reform effort to think about safe passage. We didn't only do that just throughout the system of our school in Chicago, but also creating those safe passageways within to and from school, where there were actually safe passage liaisons that were supporting getting kids to and from school. Even at the high school level, because I was a high school leader, you need that. And so those are efforts I've led in the past, and a lot of that was also by listening to the feedback of students and family members. But I know it is top of mind for me if I were to be the CEO here, that we would really take a very firm look at our safety policies. I'm also excited about some of the work that the mayor is doing. The mayor has a firm commitment in terms of data-driven police reform and community reform, that those efforts will also aid the system in keeping our babies safe in school.
Thank you very much. Last but not least, our sixth question, and Celia, you're up.
Hi, based on your relationship to Cleveland and the CMFD community, what would be your first priority if you become our new CEO? What attracted you to our district? Why us and why now?
Great question. So I'll start with that last part. This is my dream role in my dream district. And the reason why I say that, someone reached out to me, a couple of people reached out to me very early on when CEO Gordon announced he was retiring, and he's been a phenomenal leader for all these years, and I worked under him and have learned so much from him. I remember at the time just thinking like, wow, that would be incredible, but I was like, I don't know about the process, and it was like so many things that were, it was so far off. They hadn't even opened up the process. And as time went on and people continued to reach out, I was like, it was one that I would be honored to come back and lead. And I feel so grateful to be at this point, to be one of 2 finalists. And so it is a dream district because this is one, it's like a family for me. I have family here in Cleveland. I'm from Chicago, but I have family here in Cleveland. But in the time I was here, I was welcomed, not only by the district, but by the community. I have fraternity brothers, my church family that was here. It was one that welcomed me, and I love the community. Was out this morning doing my same running path I used to do in the morning. I'm a runner. And so it's just one that welcomes me, and one that I would be honored to come back and lead. And then in terms of a role, this is my dream role. And so the work I've done up until this point and the development that people have invested in me was for this moment, for a moment to lead a school system that comes with a lot of responsibility, a heavy weight. But that's one I want to take, and one I want to work with others to do. And so that's really important for me. What was the first part of that question?
Based on your relationship to Cleveland and CMSD community, what would be your first priority as the new CEO?
Yeah, so my first priority is getting out into the community and listening. I have to listen, and that goes to that point about the heavy weight of leadership. I've learned over time, leaders must be humble. Leaders have to be strong and confident in the decisions they make, but you have to be very humble. Not always are we going to get it right, but you have to be willing to say that when we step out and do things that are bold and innovative, we listen to the community, and we're doing what's right based on what we know is to be true. And that's something you would get from me. You would get a leader that is humble, one that listens, one that will push, as I mentioned before, will push, and I will advocate and fight hard. And also in those times where we don't get it right, I will admit that we didn't get it right. But I'll get right back up because I'm resilient. And so that's very important for me as well.
Thank you.
Awesome, Doctor, thank you so much. So we have asked all of our questions. We'd like to now give you the opportunity to ask us any questions that you may have.
Yeah, I have a couple, but while I'm asking my question, I'll pass this around. I'll need to collect these back. I don't have enough for everyone, but just want you guys to take a look at my entry plan and then also some artifacts of some of the things I was talking about, like my leadership artifacts. So you guys can take a look at some of those, and it also talks about some of the things I would do in my first 100 days. Sorry, that got connected there.
Are these for keep? Do we get?
No, you don't
Pass it down.
Yeah, but you can share and look at them. So, I guess my first question would be, in this time, and you guys have been a part of the community, what are some things you're proud of, not only just in Cleveland, but also in the school district?
I think one of the things is that, especially as a healthcare professional, is our integrated health program as we continue to push our partnerships. This is Cleveland. We have some of the greatest hospitals right here. We have wonderful partnerships that help us provide care to students. We have lots of immigrants, many of them undocumented. Healthcare is very important for these kids, and sometimes we are the ones providing that healthcare. That makes me proud to be a part of that process. As it evolves, as we gain more partnerships, it is an amazing thing to know that my kids, all of them, all 470 in my school, all of my kids have that opportunity to be seen.
I missed the question. I'm so sorry. I was looking at
It was just what are you most proud of?
Oh, and I would like to build on that partnership too with, because we also have world-class universities, which I'm affiliated with Case Western, so they reach out to our students to engage them, and I would like to see more of that, pushing our students toward having those opportunities to get those CCP courses and to have a running start into college like John Hay offers at their school for the college prep, because quite a few of them come out of there with associate's degrees and move on to, become doctors like my god niece or whatever. So I feel like I appreciate that the other stakeholders, which are businesses and higher ed institutions, are linked into the schools as well. And if you didn't know, I think there's a continuing program with our Provost Scholars, children who are graduates of East Cleveland schools and even some CMSD schools can go to Case Nursing School for free, basically. And so, and even with our Say Yes program. Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, yeah, we're trying to take advantage of all these benefits so that our children have, the leg up they need.
For me, not to piggyback on the Say Yes, I love the fact that we have family support specialists in our buildings, right there on hand to our children and our parents as they need it. I love the fact that we have specialty schools the way we did, being a parent ambassador at Max Hayes, that we can give children 7 pathways, you know what I'm saying? Because college isn't for everybody.
Absolutely, it's not.
But we have schools that will help the children get certified. 3 years, our children have certification, and they get into mentoring programs, like ACE Mentoring is an amazing program that we have as well. And also the Parent Ambassador program, something I love about our district. They engage us, They created the Parent Ambassador program to foster relationships between administration and parents, and I do feel like it's working. When you have a parent in the building that you went to high school with, we all been through what? You would be, if you are our next CEO, you will be my 4th CEO. And we all know each other. It's a family. CMSD has always felt like a family to me. Like Eric Gordon always felt like he had a very, important part in my household, even though, it just felt personal.
Yeah, oh, that's amazing. Didn't someone mention their face liaison as well? So one of the questions I was curious about with Say Yes, which I agree is an amazing program. It wasn't around when I was in CMSD, so that's one I would definitely want to make sure we continue. How do the support specialists on the Say Yes side, how does that work with the face liaisons? Do they work together? Are they 2 separate positions?
So it is 2 separate positions.
Okay.
So I would say, I was a parent ambassador previously at Louisa May Alcott. So I know that working as a parent ambassador in the school, me and my family support specialists, we're hand in hand.
Okay,
And
got it.
I think a great thing about it is that transparency.
Yeah.
So you have families that may be hesitant to go speak to the school leadership or whatever the case may be, but they're comfortable coming up to a mom or a parent or a grandparent. And same thing with students. Students, they feel comfortable. They're, hey, Miss Lena, can you help me with this? Or this is happening at home. But they have that comfort level. And same thing, Mrs. Howell Martin is our support specialist at our school, and she is phenomenal. It could be anything that a student needs, she's there to help. And, and I Say Yes, and I think parent ambassadors work well hand in hand. That definitely is a thing that I wholeheartedly believe should still stay within our district, for sure.
And to piggyback on that, at my school in particular, the parent ambassador and my Say Yes coordinator, if a child or parent says there's a healthcare concern, immediately we put something into place. What is it that you need? Is it mental health services? Is it healthcare? The 3 of us work hand in hand. We are in each other's spaces continuously to do what we have to do for the kids and the families. Perhaps it's a parent that came to me and said they needed community services of some kind. Maybe they need a bed, something as, and those are the people I go to. Where can we get these people a bed? What can we do? What mountains do we have to move?
And that's the thing, we have to remove these obstacles. We are a district of low-income families, and we have to help remove the obstacle to engage our parents.
Yeah.
That's important, and I do feel like the CS coordinator, parent ambassadors, they have, bridged that gap.
Yeah, I agree with Celia. Being the former parent ambassador for Cleveland School of the Arts, which is a high school, they always stress that in high school your kids are like moving away from you, right? They don't want you to be engaged. I think the FACE department, they don't. I think the FACE department is wonderful because it gives that opportunity for that continuity between parents and staff of the schools. And I think there's never enough building upon that relationship. And you, as hopefully becoming the CEO or potentially becoming the CEO, I would like to see that, that continuing to strengthen the relationship between the schools and the families. It's not, sometimes you feel like it's families against the students, or not, excuse me, the students against the families and the families against the school. But no, we're all in this together to make our students successful. And to piggyback, or to go back to the question about what I'm proud of being a CSA parent is our tenacity, how resilient the district is, our willingness to, despite all the challenges that we go through, to continue to show up day to day to be better than what we were yesterday, and the commitment from students, staff, and the community to make that happen.
Thank you.
We're proud of a lot.
No, that's amazing, and as you should be. You know, when I was in the system, it was at the early days of the Cleveland plan, and so even though I know we have a lot of work to do, there's a lot of work we have to do to make our schools better, to be operating more efficiently. There's a lot to be proud of, and a big part of that is celebrating that progress.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Dr. Warren,
Yeah.
you're ice cold, brother, aren't you?
I am. I am.
Yeah, I heard you say that or whatever.
Oh, okay, yes.
It's a fraternity thing.
Yeah, are you also?
No, I'm in a different fraternity, but when you know, you know.
Exactly.
When you know, you know, no.
Yeah, it's all part of the PhD family. Yeah, yes.
Well, Doctor, any more questions for us?
No, oh, did you have a question?
No, I just, for me, I think that, pre-pandemic, we were teaching a certain way.
Yeah.
And I think post-pandemic, unfortunately, the pandemic happened, right? And I think it forced our teachers, administrators, and everybody in general, we can't go back to what we were doing anyway. And so for me, just for me personally, I hope that the next CEO can come in here and shake some stuff up and get our kids, we live in a new digital world. These kids are super, they know everything at their fingertips. We're old school. I remember our internet was Dewey Decimal System.
There's value in that, though.
No, don't get me wrong. There's value in that. Because not to slight any of my kids or nothing, my 3 boys, but I tell them, I say, you guys just don't know. If when we were growing up, we had the technology at our hands that you had. I'm like, we had to go old school, and I tell them all the time, I say, it doesn't get easier. It's going to get, I say, wait till you go to college, if you decide to go to college. But I just think that we've been teaching kind of analog, and we need to get that digital divide closed, not only physically, but mentally, because we have new technology and just new ways of thinking how we can educate these kids. And like you say, this is a community. It's a community effort, and I just look forward to the next CEO, helping the parents, and us helping him, and whatever else we can do to make it better for kids.
Yeah, and to segue on that a little bit, since we're good on time here, the libraries are still important. I realize that the libraries in their schools are being threatened. A lot of them are being diminished and taken away. So, and that's because we are in a digital age, right?
Yeah.
But there is still value in having a kid read a book. Our literacy rates are low in Cleveland, so I think the value of having a book around still stands with our digital stuff as well. So a lot of, to Mr. Mitchell's point, our kids are very digital, but we don't want, I don't want to see my kids lose the value of picking up a book.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, it quickly, sharing from that, one, I agree about both of those. We have to really figure out not only just from the digital side, but how do we really advance, making sure, you guys talked about some of those pathway programs. There's so many careers out here that pay well, like great technology careers, that we need to be telling our businesses here that are coming to Cleveland, this is your future workforce. We need to be training, and so I believe we need to be on the cutting edge, but also agree on the library standpoint. And I love that there's the Cleveland Reads initiative that has been helpful. And in Indianapolis, our enrichment programs that sits under my leadership in academics has been an advocate to make sure that we have at least library support specialists in every schools. Because that's another thing, going back to the budgeting, schools have had to sacrifice. I can't have a librarian. So it's just as important.
Yes.
Yeah, some of these librarians have them in schools. Yep.
Yeah, they do. They do. Well, Dr. Morgan, thank you so much for being here, giving us the opportunity as parents to ask these very important questions. Again, congratulations on making it this far. We're going to get your materials back to you.
We're just going to keep these.
I'll take those back, but I will leave you with.
I was going to slide.
I will leave this with you guys. And I didn't have the names until this morning, so they're not personalized.
Okay, that's okay. It's the thought that counts.
Yes.
I'd like to also continue to encourage you to stay strong and stay on the line with our new mayor as well. Because, while it's new, get it shaken,
That's right. You gotta get-
While it's new, get it shaken, get your foot in the door, because he's been launching some great new initiatives, like,
Initiatives,
like Futureland, which I think that public schools should definitely be a
Absolutely.
part of, and engaging with students so that they see a way forward. I think that realizing that hope is a commodity here, and that builds upon our resilience in the community, so that we can, keep our youth engaged and off the streets of Chicago. Remember, I feel sorry for them. That's like, oh no,
It's really important.
because all I could think of was like, where's the belt at? Where are the people? Where's the parents? Come on, come drag him back.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming in.
Absolutely.
And
Can we get a card?
Yes, thank you so much.
Is that true?
Doctor, thanks again. Have a good evening. And another thing, as you get in, or if you get in, also think about the families and the small guys, as well as the big companies and organizations who will come at you. It's very important to make the community feel involved and a part of the process.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Bye. Thank you.